Okay, so today we're going to cover architectural drawings, and we're going to cover structural drawings. The architectural and structural are kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. We'll explain that here in a bit. I'm going to do a little bit of a lecture, and I managed to get these things onto my computer. These instead of doing it the way we did last week, so I can show them to you a little bit better and a little more detailed. They're hard to see a little bit, but they're it's the best we can do with the scan stuff. You take something this big and scan it down to this size. It's tough to get all the detail, but we're going to do the best we can there. Okay, so we're going to talk about architectural drawings first. Basically, what we're looking at when we look at architectural drawings, we're looking at floor plans. We're looking at exterior elevations. We're looking at reflective ceiling fans, uh, plans, not fans. Uh, and we're looking at sectional drawings too, elevation drawings, interior, schedules, uh, furniture and equipment. All these things show different things. Your elevation drawings, the exterior, just shows you how the finished building should look on the outside. And then the floor plan should show the locations and constructions of things inside that building, like special rooms, emergency generators. It'll also show you firewalls. It'll show you fire control panels, alarm panels, that kind of stuff, even pumps. If there's hazardous materials inside, your floor plan should show you all that. Your reflective ceiling plans, that just shows the ceiling as if it was kind of in a mirror, that kind of thing, at floor level. And then you have your section drawings. Your section drawings, they're details that can't be shown because they're too small to fit on this big paper, and you need to see part of that. You'll see details for things like firewalls. You'll see details for foundations, different things like that. You'll also see in those section drawings uh, how things are assembled or constructed too, how they're supposed to be constructed. Your interior elevations basically show the interior surfaces in that structure. The detailed views show vertical views of the building, like floors, building height, the grade, surrounding grounds, all that kind of stuff. When we look through here in these plans later, when you have if you have those plans, you're going to find that there are things there. Eh, it's got too much of a. There are things there that actually that are supposed to be there that aren't, and we'll point those out too. Your elevation views, basically, we talked a little bit about that. You have the floors, building height, building grade, surrounding grounds, all that stuff are on your elevation views. And your floor plan, quite simply, is the architectural drawing. Everybody's looked at it like a floor plan that tells you where things are, what the walls look like, which way the doors go, which way where the windows are, all that kind of stuff. As far as that goes, uh, in these your schedules, you might end up having windows, door schedules, what's supposed to be there, what kind of doors they are. Any number of things can go into the different schedules. You might even have furniture plans and like for small offices, and revised plans that indicate like corridor walls, any number of different things that go on all these different plans. Um, your floor plans can include things like what I talked about a while ago, the fire pumps, the alarm panels, all these different things go into these floor plans, and the different, and it also should have things like the interior drawings on these that show fire resistance ratings. They should show fire barriers. If there's penetrations like pipes, ducts, like air conditioning ducts, that kind of stuff, not the quacking kind, uh, stairwells, elevators, service shafts, any number of things, utility shafts, all these things should be shown in these plans. And that's what we'll find when we look at these. I'm going to go over a little bit of those, though more bit more of those too, and it's something I'm going to cover a couple of different things with that. Uh, let's see, we're going to cover. What am I looking for here? Sorry about that. Looking for something that I lost. We're what you have to do when you look in these things, you'll find that there's a lot of stuff within in these kind of plans. And darn it, sorry about that. When we look at architectural features, we have to think about things like fire protection features too. And we'll go over that, the fire protection features, but I want to go over life safety features first. Architectural features like what they are, you should be eliminating things when you do plans reviews, like doors that open into an open space. And if we've all kind of look at things and think, well, why does that door in that wall and there's no staircase there? You're trying to keep those from happening, is what you're trying to do, to eliminate those kind of situations. You're trying to look at an exit lighting, and does it actually say exit, or is it so bright that you can't see it? Life safety features is what we're looking at there. We have to remember the course theme of what we're looking for is engineering and education. And then last but not least, we want to enforce these kind of things if we can't get engineering and education of these. We want to look at our means of egress. Do they have the proper signage? Is that included in the plan? Do they have emergency lighting included that that part of it? Are the three parts of the means of egress there, the exit access, the exit discharge, are they large enough to where they're meeting the code? And that's part of that when we're looking at the plans. And when we look at exit access as to things that are included in the code, the doors versus the exit, that kind of thing. Are they swinging in the right direction? Is the exit discharge charge within the right amount of feet to the public way? Things we have to think about when we're doing that. And public way, of course, is a street, an alley, some kind of public land where people can go once they get outside. But your means of egress, if you were to put it in a checklist, you'd have things like the occupancy classification, the occupant load, minimum number of exits. All these things are part of your including your travel distance and your exit capacity, egress. All these things are included in our architectural plans and in the arrangement too of these exits. And it's important to understand because different occupancies have to have different types of arrangements for egress, for the load capacity, for it's all classification driven as to the use and the density of these particular of these particular occupancies and in architectural design. If I can get everybody to put yourself on mute unless you have a question or a comment there. Your occupant load is a big deal too because it determines how many doors you have to have and the exit arrangement, where you put the exits. And you have to calculate to be able to calculate that occupant load. And you have to think about the limitations and the space, how the space function and how it's going to be used. Occupant load is figured either in gross or net, depending on the type of occupancy it is. And we're not going to go over the types of occupancies, but that's part of it when you're doing examples. Let's see. I'm trying to think if what else I want to cover in chapter 6 as far as exits and that kind of thing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Just understand that there's different types of codes for exit arrangements, that kind of thing, and you'll learn that later on. But when we look at our codes and we look at our architectural plans, they should all be included in that, including diagonal distancing, exit travel distances. And I'll give you for instance, travel distances with and without sprinklers change. If they have sprinklers, they get more travel distance than they do if they don't have sprinklers in a building. So it kind of makes a difference when we're looking at our plans and what they might have in it. What else am I trying to think of here? Your corridors, basically, you have to look for, are there dead end corridors? If there are, is it greater than 20 feet without a sprinkler? That's considered a dead end corridor. So you have to kind of look at that when you're doing that. If it has a sprinkler, then it has 30 feet. So you get more with sprinklers. Your corridor widths, all that is included in your architectural plans. Your exit capacities, the factors you have. If it's a stairway, if it's a level exit capacity, it depends on how many you get. So you have to figure up your occupant load and look at it and see if that building is designed for that many people. Do your doors swing in the direction of travel? Is your occupant load 50 or more in a R2 type occupancy? If it does, it has to have sprinklers. It has to have 2 doors or more. It's things that you have to think of when you look at these plans. Let's see, I'm trying, what else is there? Are there special doors? Are the doors the right size? Are they 32 inches? Do they need more than 32 inches? All those are things that we have to think about in our different things we use for doing architectural design and architectural reviews. Group A and E occupancies, if there's more than 50 in a room, you're going to have 2 or more exits, things like that. You might have to have panic hardware. All these things are things to think about. And it all depends on the type of occupancy that you're looking at. Do you have delayed egress as locks? Do you have any type of locking devices? Are they appropriate locking devices? Are they fully, do they have turn knobs? Because the code says you cannot use thumb latches, that kind of thing, that are not attached to the handle, that kind of thing, where it opens automatically. So, and different things, there's different types of things that we have to look at, including stairways. We have to look at the risers, the 44 inches clear width. All these things are things that we'll have to look at in our architectural plans and our structural plans too. If you have handrails, you have to look at those. Are they appropriately put between 34 and 38 inches? I can't tell you, there's so much stuff there that we can't go through everything in this plans 1 class. But think of things like handrails. If you're just things like if your stairs are wider than 5 feet, you have to have them on both sides. Or if they're wider than 10 feet, you might have to have them down the middle too. So you have to look at different things to figure out where things are needed on your ramps, on your stairs, on your horizontal exits. And then you have to look at your egress marking. Anywhere in that building, somebody should be able to find a way to an egress. So if you're looking at it on a plans, do they have the exit signs where everybody can see them? Is there exit illumination where they have that 1 foot candle throughout the building, throughout the exit corridors and that kind of thing? is everything we have to look at in these plans. So it's a big deal to look at these plans and look and see, are they required to have smoke-proof enclosures? Do they have those? Do they have the types of finishes that are required? I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you right here, but the whole idea is to get it out there and make it safe. Make sure that the things are in there to keep this building safe. Uh, when we look at that, that's when we're looking at these expanded finishes. We're looking at the classifications of the finishes. We're looking at a lot of different things in our details that are covered under all these different uh, NFPA standards that are usually found in the fire codes. So that's things we have to look at there. Um, I'm trying to think of what else I want to cover here. You want to look at your test standards, any number of things that are inside your 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 plans should all be to code insofar as reading these plans. And I can't really go real far with that without going into the architectural features and the fire protection plans too. Uh, and we look at things like that and we have to think of the reason why there's fire codes out there and plans reviews is because of things have happened. Uh, and sprinkler systems, for instance, they were not a big deal until after the Beverly Hills Supper Club, where the Beverly Hills Supper Club was supposed to be it was in Southgate, Kentucky, and it was supposed to be the nicest club there was. Well, it was the third deadliest nightclub in U.S. fire history. There were so many people killed there because in 1978 they had a fire there that killed more than that killed 165 people and injured more than 200 people. So that's part of the things. There was no fire protection put in to that supper club. You look, I gave you guys a video to look at the station nightclub fire. They did not have a sprinkler system inside that. It was required by code. They didn't have the correct wall finishings. It was required by code, but it wasn't. There were no plans for them to look at and review on those codes. Here we go. As far as the plans and that kind of stuff, were not there for them to review. Therefore, they didn't get a lot out of it when they looked at it. So if we stick with the course theme, your engineering, education, and enforcement, that's what we're looking at. The architectural features that we're looking at are passive fire protection features like our firewalls, to the foundation, to major revisions in the architectural drawings, and the work with the designers on conceptualizing what's on those architectural plans. Again, we go back to occupancy classifications, and they have to be included in that code analysis that we talked about on the first sheet last week, the front sheet. And then when we talk about fire protection, passive fire protections, we have to think about occupancy separation. Is there firewalls that are supposed to be there? Is there fire partitions that are supposed to be there? Are there fire curtains that are supposed to be there? All those are passive features, and why there's different things for different occupancy classifications. And I'll give you, for instance, like in a hotel, each room has to have a 1 hour fire barrier between each room and the floors above it. So a 2 hour on the floors above it. So there's different things there that might not be included in, say, a business occupancy, something like that. And we have to understand, sometimes we have to look at things like assemblies. assemblies are gathering room for 50 or more people in a room or a space. All these things I think we have to consider with our fire protection systems. Uh, we look at educational and think, okay, does it meet the educational or daycare, institutionals? You know, if you have unrestrained institutionals, there's a lot of different types of heads. For instance, you'll have heads that prisoners can't mess with because they will. They're fixed heads, unlike you might find in a business or something like that. There's all kinds of different things that you'll see. Uh, you'll find delayed egress locks on say Alzheimer's units, or you might find them even in a Walmart or a Home Depot, where people can't steal stuff and run out the door. They might have a 15 or 30-second delay, which is all under code, but it has to meet that code that it's under. Uh, let's see, I'm not going to go over each and every one, but when we look at the different occupancies, we have to think about separated use. You have to have also in these vertical, horizontal, or both type of things. Like I said, in that hotel setting, each area has to comply with the height restrictions too. They might have to be in. I can tell you, height restrictions make a difference, say in a dwelling versus a hotel room. A single family versus a hotel room might be a little different. Uh, as to might be in a hazardous materials setting as to a factory setting. Uh, there's non-separated uses too, where sprinkler requirements might be required to keep them from putting in a firewall, or vice versa. I've seen where they've broken down an area that required a sprinkler system and put firewalls in so they didn't have to put the sprinkler system in. There's a lot of ways to get around this kind of stuff, and you have to look at it to see if that meets the code in your architectural drawings. Uh, as far as the examples go, if you have non-separated use, you might have like uh, a church, like an A1, in the same strip center as a group B. Well, the the A1, you're going to have a separation, like a fire barrier, between an A1 and a group B, between an A1 and an A2, a A2 and a group B. All these things you have to think about when you're reading these plans in your architectural settings. Are there ancillary rooms? Are there accessory use rooms, like uh, bathrooms? Are they large enough to have sprinklers in them? Are they? And you have to understand too, when you have these accessories, are they 10% more of that one story of that building? If they are, then different things apply. Is there more than 1,200 amps within that room? If they are, there's different codes that apply to passive fire, fire protection, doors, the way they swing, how many doors are required. All that kind of stuff is mixed in with the plans review. Um, Generally speaking, it depends on the occupancy load and the occupancy types. Uh, and the construction type too. Construction type makes a big difference. Uh, and we don't do a lot about construction types, but I'm going to tell you what they are right offhand. Your type 1 is fire resistant construction. Basically, it's only non-combustible materials. Uh, their fire resistance is usually 2 to 3 hours. That's type 1 construction. You'll find those in all high-rise buildings. You'll find them in a lot of different types of construction, but type 1 is non-combustible material. Now, type 2 is non-combustible, but it contains non-combustible materials, but it's limited or no fire resistance rating. That means it could be a tin building, for instance, could be no fire resistance ratings in that. However, it can still be used. It's non-combustible, but there's no fire resistance ratings. Type 3 construction is the ordinary construction. It's what you see. People use it. There's limited or no fire resistance ratings. Exterior walls are generally non-combustible. Interior walls, floors, roof might be combustible because they might use wood, as if, for instance, for walls, that kind of thing. That's type 3 construction. Uh, type 3 is what's generally seen. 6 floors and under is type 3 construction, and basically it's strip centers, that kind of thing. Type 4 construction is heavy timber. Heavy timber, it all depends. It all depends on the mass, the size of the structure. All structural materials have to be at least 4 by 4 inches in a heavy timber type 4 construction. You see them in churches, you might see them in some factory settings, things like that. And then type 5 is the last one. Type 5 is the most common you see. Houses generally are type 5. Type 5, it might look like it might be type 3, but a brick veneer house generally is type 5. It's wood frame behind brick veneer. Any material, traditionally wood frame houses. There's no fire resistance rating in most of these things. So I'm not going to go over a lot of that anymore. I just want you guys to know what those are and know what the differences are. But based upon different elements, there's a fire resistance rating. Your exterior walls can have fire resistance ratings. Your interior walls can have them. Your basic structure, supporting structure, can have fire resistance ratings. And your bearing and non-bearing elements inside there can have it. Your floors, your roofs, ceiling assemblies, all these can have fire resistance ratings. And there's construction types. We're not like we went over that, but all those construction types throw in the fire resistance ratings if there are fire resistance ratings. And then you have bearing versus non-bearing walls, and quite simply, a bearing wall is what's holding up that structure, where a non-bearing wall is a wall that's inside that's not doing anything except for separating a room or something like that. When you look at them, you can see the difference, but the whole idea is, say for instance, a wall that separates one office from another is generally non-bearing wall. Understand that the roof framing and the difference in roof framing, the different types of roof framing. You have truss construction, which is real dangerous to firefighters, but truss is lightweight and it goes together quickly, and it costs less and is easier to put up. But it's a lot of times you have to look at that. Does that need to be fire protected? Does it need to be protected from fire? So there's things that we see. There's different things too that tells us the allowable height of buildings in the stories as to what the base is to the very top of the building. When you talk about height restrictions, anything that's occupiable space above 75 feet is, 75 feet is going to be considered a high-rise construction. So you have to look at that and think about that too. And generally that's 7 floors or 8 floors and above. If you figure, generally speaking, every floor is about 10 feet. A 75-foot building is generally going to be a high-rise building. Not all the time, but generally. You have to look at your building area, how big that is. How is it? And think about this. Think about a bank when you think of building area. There's occupiable space, and then there's non-occupiable space, where a vault is or something like that. So it's things you think of in that, and to calculate the building area, the allowable areas, that kind of thing. And just remember, your height is usually going to be from grade level. It's not going to be from the basement level in most cases. It's going to be from grade level. So it makes a big difference in that. And the whole idea, like I say, in homes, it's generally going to be 8 to 10 feet. In houses, in commercial buildings, it's usually going to be about 10 feet. from ground level. Um, let's see, I'm trying to think of what else I want to go. As far as that goes, automatic sprinkler systems, it makes a difference in the clearing, the occupancy specifications, as far as the area of limits, that kind of thing. And in general, NFPA 13 will let them increase one-story buildings by 300% if they have a sprinkler system. And in multi-story buildings, it's 200%. So it makes a big difference if they have that. Is everybody with me on this? Because I'm running through it pretty quick. But we'll look at more of that here in a few minutes. The sprinklers allow like a one-story office building. If it'll allow a 300% increase in that building if it has a sprinkler system. So it makes a big difference. And the height modifications too make a difference too. Because if say, for instance, NFPA 13, if they have a sprinkler system, the one story can go up to 20 feet in height without that, with the sprinkler system. So it kind of makes a difference in that too. As far as firewalls go, the fire resistance walls, the protected openings there restrict fire spread is what they do. It extends the continuity of the foundation. If it's a true firewall, it goes from the foundation all the way through the roof by about 3 feet in most cases. If it's a true firewall, and you can see them when you drive down the road, and there's a lot more of them up in the northern states than there is down here. But when you look at say, for instance, a parapet in the middle of a wall, say in an apartment building, that's generally going to be a firewall that's sticking up through that roof there. And that's a true firewall. But when you have firewalls, and we're going to go over a few different types of walls, these fires are generally going to be 2-hour rated type walls, sometimes 3, and they go through the roof. They're usually made out of cinder block or something like that. You have party walls. Party walls are basically, it's a firewall on a lot line between different buildings, used like 2 different buildings, that kind of thing. And the party wall, basically, there's no openings, and it kind of creates that separate building. The difference between that party wall and that firewall is the firewall is made for the building to stand alone if the other building catches on fire and falls to the ground. I'll give you a for instance. It's kind of weird. In Lamarck, Texas, here down in the Houston area, their main fire station is in a strip center that they bought, an old grocery store. And there are firewalls, true firewalls, on either side of this between the city hall, the fire station, and a couple of businesses. Well, the business next to the fire station burned to the ground, and the firewall kept it from going into the fire station. Fire stations also sprinklered, that kind of thing. But when you look at it now, there's just an empty lot there, a slab next to the fire station, and another business further down. That firewall held the fire to that one occupancy. So everybody understand that's what a true firewall does. The occupancy stands by itself. Okay? Whereas a party wall, a fire barrier is basically, it's not going to hold the entire building up it's not going to be independent is what it is. It just keeps it from going to the next one until the fire department gets there, hopefully, if there's no penetrations in that wall. That's why they have to have fire doors. They have to have signs on the wall that say no penetrations, that kind of thing. And they cannot, they have to have automatic closers on those fire doors. All of that's included in your architectural plans. Basically, your exterior walls, depending on where they sit, the building code and the fire code, they might have to have a fire resistant rating. if they're within so many feet of the lot line, if they're in so many feet of another building, they might be required to have exterior firewalls. So it's our fire ratings, uh, exterior fire resistance, that kind of thing. It depends on, like I say, the firewall. It's kind of an imaginary line because you can't see it. But if the building, say here I know in Harris County, if it's within 10 feet of the lot line, it has to have a fire resistance rating on the exterior wall. If it's in 6 feet of another building, then it has to have an exterior fire rating on that wall, exterior wall. Uh, let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, see if I want to cover anything else on firewalls. Let's see. Covered that. I already covered that. When we talk about firewalls and fire barriers, a fire barrier is basically made, a firewall is to stop the fire, and the fire barrier is to restrict the spread of that fire. Quite simply is the way to do it. Fire barriers you see all over the place. You see shaft enclosures, exit passageways, and atriums. You see a lot of fire barriers. Incidental use rooms like the large electrical rooms, data rooms. You'll see fire barriers in there. In occupancy separations, like in these strip centers, you'll see a fire barrier. And it's just a fire area separation is what it is. And what that does is it just slows down the spread of that fire. It restricts the spread of that fire till the fire department can get there and put the fire out. There's fire partition too. A fire partition is a fire resistive design to separate occupancies, corridors, that kind of thing. And it extends from the fire barrier goes to the ceiling normally, and a fire partition will go from the slab all the way up to the roof deck, unless the floor or ceiling is fire rated. Everybody with me on that one? The fire partition, unless it has a rating on the ceiling, goes all the way to the roof, not through the roof, but through to the roof. And a fire barrier will go to the ceiling itself, even if it's not fire resistant ceilings. Most of us don't realize most of our ceilings in businesses and offices are fire resistant without even noting it. They have a 20-minute fire rating, but code requires to have at least a 1 hour fire rating. So you have to get a different type and heavier type of tile. And you'll find those a lot in corridors of businesses and that sort of thing. Now there's smoke barrier protection too. And smoke barrier partitions, what they do is they're basically continuous and designed to restrict the movement of smoke. They're usually 1 hour fire rated. You'll find those like in healthcare facilities, correctional facilities, educational facilities like schools, nursing homes, that kind of thing. And what they do, generally speaking, is they keep the smoke out. A lot of times you'll find fire curtains. I've seen fire curtains that operate with the fire alarm when they go off, and these fire curtains come down to keep the smoke from getting up to the second or third floor on an atrium, and it's required there. The walls have to be identified. All these things have to be identified as fire separation. And then fire ratings are calculated by the engineers and that sort of thing. And the codes say what the fire ratings have to be at 1 hour, 2 hour, 30 minutes, 3 hour, whatever they might be. Then it's all made by, and it's all tested by Underwriters Laboratory and the ASTME. And all these test these, and they certify these fire resistant ratings and such. Just understand that all these fire walls and partitions and barriers can have penetrations in them, but they can only be of a certain size. They have to have fire doors and fire window rated windows within those, which are usually less than the wall itself. So it's really kind of weird how that works. So your door assemblies also have to have fire ratings and have to have labels on them. All of those are part of our specifications and our architectural detail drawings too. You have different classes, A, B, C, D, on these fire doors. NFPA 80 covers that, and the fire codes refer back to those. Fire door hardware is all included in that, and they all have to have the labels on them in order for them to be fire doors, fire windows, that kind of thing. If somebody paints over the labels by accident, it's no good. They have to replace the door. They can't put a new label on it. So it's really kind of crazy how it works. You'll even find things like draft stops, which are things to slow down fire in floor and ceiling assemblies, attics, crawl spaces, all these different things you'll find. They restrict the air movement between open spaces. Every 3,000 feet of attic space usually requires some kind of draft stop in there somewhere. Every 1,000 feet of floor space requires some kind of draft stop, be it a door or something like that. Especially in the multifamily residential, they have to have they have to have that rating, tenant separation. Let's see. We're not going to go into details on fire stopping and fire blocking, that sort of thing. So as far as that goes, let me look and see if there's anything else I want to cover under these chapters.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on. Let's see, fire resistance. Detail views, we talked about that. Well, when we talk about things like the architectural designs and that sort of thing, we've talked a little about the schedules and detailed views, that and plans, that kind of things, sectional views, doors and windows, that sort of thing. But when we look at these things, think about the things that we see, like the penetrations again. And when we look into structural plans, think of things like fire loads. A fire load is any effect that a structure has or has to be designed to resist, like wind, gravity, in certain areas, earthquakes, soil pressure. In these loads, you have two different types of loads. You have the structural plans give you the support of the building basically, and they have to they take up the entire weight of the building. But you have different types of loads. You have dead loads and you have live loads. Now let's go over what the difference is. The dead loads basically is the weight of the structure itself, the columns, the beams, the structural members, the building components, so to speak. Your roofs, your floors, your slabs, your decks, interior walls are dead loads, stairways and stair systems, exterior walls, columns, all those are dead loads. Basically, they're permanently installed and basically they don't move. Your heating plants, elevators, machinery, all those are dead loads. Plumbing, like water and piping, are dead loads. Mechanical, electrical, all those are dead loads. Sprinkler systems are included in the dead loads, even if there's water. If you have to have water, like on a lot of high rises have to have water above to meet their minimum requirements of head pressure up there. So they have to put a water source up there. That's included in your dead load. Other dead loads, vaults, like in banks and that kind of thing, are considered dead loads. Now, live loads are basically live loads. Things are in a building that are movable but not included as a permanent part of that structure. Stock furnishings, merchandise, people, me and you, firefighters, the water that's used for fire suppression in the pipes is a live load. Uh, Trying to think if there's anything else I can think of as live loads. Uh, Rain and snow are actually live loads because they're not there all the time. Uh, Basically, when you look at different types of loads too, think of things that are load distribution. Uniformly distributed loads, like a uniformly distributed load is a load in a building that's evenly distributed throughout the whole thing. Then you have concentrated loads that are applied to one point or over a small area. Wind loads are loads hitting it. I know down in the Houston area, it's required by code that they have what's called the Miami-Dade structural requirements down here now, including houses, which give you hurricane straps and that kind of stuff. So it makes a big difference. In some areas, you have to have seismic forces. Even down here, we have to have seismic forces for explosions and that kind of thing. And large buildings have to have those. You have torsional loads. You have inertia, basically the tendency to understand that a body will remain in motion and at rest until it's acted upon by a force. Well, we've all seen tornadoes. If they hit a building, that inertia moves that building, right? But you have to have things like dampening mechanisms to keep it from moving too much. Vibration, decreasing the building's movement, especially in high-rise buildings. All those are part and made into our structural uh, drawings and that kind of sort of thing. You might have uh, different footings. Your soil design, they give you different types of footings. The foundations, are they pier and pedestal foundations? Are they piles? Are they grade beam? Are they foundations, concrete foundations? All that's included in those structural plans. Your bearing walls, your frames, your columns, your axial compressive loads. Those are loads that are applied to the center of a cross section of a beam that's going across. And you get what's called tensile or compressive loads, all in the axial compressive loads. You have eccentric loads. Eccentric loads are loads that are perpendicular to the cross section. For instance, your compressive load, does it come down straight down on it, or is it that's a compressive load, where an eccentric load might be a pipe that's tied in off the side of another pipe or another beam. That's an eccentric, where it comes out of the side of it, where a compressive comes down on top. Yeah, the way I said that. Does everybody understand the difference in those two? Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understands those things. Your beams basically are your structural members that have loads on them, usually vertical loads. And basically, we talked about the compression that comes down on top of that, but then you have the tension, the vertical tension forces that they kind of tend to pull things apart. For instance, on a truss, on the cord, the cord is the bottom or top of a truss is called a cord, and basically the force that it's exerted on those, if it's a tension type force, it's a vertical, horizontal force. If you remove even one of those pieces of that truss, it can cause the whole thing to collapse. So it makes a big difference in that tension type of load. You have different types of beams. You have overhanging beams, you have continuous beams, and you have cantilever. Cantilever you find mainly on balconies, where they sit out there by themselves, and they're the ones that fall when people jump on them, because they're held up like by a something underneath them, like a bar or a beam underneath them. Where you have overhanging beams, It's similar, but they might have a strap over the top, like a cable that holds them up, that kind of thing. You'll find things like that within there. We talked about cords. Remember, the cords have trusses, or trusses have cords on both the bottom and the top. They have gusset plates, and the gusset plates are normally metal. Well, what happens when they catch on fire? Metal expands, right? So what happens is they release easily, so they fall easily. Uh, Usually they're on gusset plates. Sometimes on metal they're welded. They might be on tooth type plates with metals nailers. They can be even strapped together on these trusses. Uh, just understand the difference in those, and understand what different type of trusses look like. You have trusses, K trusses, you have bowstring trusses, and I'm not going to go into what each one of these are. They're in your book, but there's different types of trusses that you can look at. Arches, there's diagonal trusses, and all these have these tensile forces, these torsion forces that can cause them to be a problem. Uh, as far as that goes, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover in these two chapters before we get to looking at the plans. Is everybody good to go with chapters 6 and 7? Because I covered an hour on these two, and now I want to cover the plans on these two also, the structural and the architectural drawings. Anybody have any questions on these thus far? I know it's a lot of stuff real fast. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you this time, and we're going to try it this way. There's a couple of them that are really light, so I'm going to have to blow them up for you to look at, and we're going to go over these and as best we can, and we're going to go ahead and is everybody seeing the screen here with the plans on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll do this. Now this, when we look at these, they're going to be numbered. I'm going to show you a couple of things that are messed up on them, and we're going to look at them and look at the notes on these. Remember last week we looked at the analysis page. It showed us what numbers and what were supposed to be there. Well, when we look at these, we're going to look at the down here first, down in this bottom corner, and I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. Hopefully this will be better than last week because we couldn't hardly see it. But I can move these so we can see them. Okay, well, what we're looking at here is we're looking at the exterior vertical view. Okay, we're looking down at the exterior. And when you look down at this, you're going to see, oops, sorry, that it's A1. Went too far. Okay, keeping that in mind, we'll look at the next page here in a few minutes. But it tells you the project name, it tells you who checked it and everything else. However, when we look at it, it'll tell us who did all the drawings and that kind of thing, and basically who it is. So what we want to look at here basically is the notes and what we have. We look at things like the signs that are down here, what are going to be there, what's required, and in this one, they should show you, if they didn't show you in the ones we looked at last week, they should show you the signs. It shows you that they've drawn a fire, what is that thing called? The stripe around it, the fire lane around it, but nowhere on it does it designate that it's a fire lane. So we have to kind of look at that and say, okay, they need to put the marking on here in a detailed view. They show us different things like like our handicap stuff. It'll show us the curbs, the gutters, all this kind of stuff on these drawings here. When we look at them, though, we have to think about different things. Your loading zones. It talks about uh, where your dumpsters go, your walkways, how wide are they, how big are they, that kind of thing. And it tells you where your trucks have to go. And you have to think, is it wide enough for my fire truck to get through when you're looking at these too? When you look at these kind of things, though, look at where these doors swing. There's only 6 feet out here. Where are they going to be able to put this? Is there going to be enough room between here and here for your apparatus to get in? Everybody following me so far? So is that where your apparatus could get in? So as we look at these, we're looking for things like that on this new proposed building that they sent us. Shows where they have to demolish this wall here. They'll show us different things as they go through them. So any questions that we might have about page 1, A1? No? Okay. As we go to A2, is everybody able to follow along with theirs? That way, and if you don't, can you follow along on mine? Make notes there, what you're looking for and that kind of thing. The next one we go to is and we'll look here. We're going to look at this one, and it's going to say on it, we can see it's an exterior elevation, right? But look down here at the bottom. What do we have down here at the bottom? That little inflection was a question. Okay, let's look at this one then. First, I forgot to look at this one. You have A1 there. This one is, what does it say on the bottom of that? Can everybody see that?
That's your door schedule.
Your door schedule. Look closely at the bottom right of this. It says A3, doesn't it?
Right.
Where's A2? Not in here. So when we're thinking of that as plans reviewers, we have to think, where's A2? Did they just misnumber it, or what might be the case? See what I'm thinking here as an examiner? So when we look at this, we're going to look at, okay, we'll just make a note of that and look at different things like your door schedules, your window schedules, that kind of thing. It's weird that they put this here in front of the different schedules, because if you think about it, why would you have your exterior first? But we're going to look at this anyway. This is our schedule here that tells us the type of doors that are supposed to be where they are. Over here, when you look at it, it's going to tell you what type of door goes in each portion of this building. So I'm gonna go through it a little more closely, and we're gonna look. It tells us what we have here, the different dimensions of our doors, and while we're doing this this webinar, we have to find different things and how far it is from lot lines, whatever it might be. So when we're looking at, this is a window here, okay? So we look at it, and over here, we're going to look and see, as soon as I get over there. The window schedule and the door schedule, there should be a window schedule over here. And I don't recall there being a window schedule here. Okay. So as we look, this thing's awkward, but as we look here, there's a door schedule, but we don't see a window schedule. So I'm not going to move it out of the way too much anymore. But we see down here, see our 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Remember we talked about our scales the other day? So we can look and see how wide these windows are. We look at that at these things. F is going to give us, F should tell, we should have a schedule on here down here that tells us the different things that we have. Darn it. It's getting irritating. Let me shrink this up a little, it'll probably help. Down here will give us our room finish schedules. It gives us, we should also have further down, this is our room finishes, what it's going to have, our door schedules, what it entails, what type of doors they have to have. It tells us if they're fire doors or not. And over here, we should have window schedules and wall schedules over here. So everybody see what I'm talking about on these things?
Mm-hmm.
And you should be able to see them on yours. Here we have things like this F here. Remember, so we saw an F here. An F equals fire rated access. Basically, that's the only thing we have in here where that shows us the passive schedules in here. So as we look up and we look at it even more closely, I'm gonna make this a little bigger again to mess us up. But we see here that we have a fire rating on one of these walls. This wall here, I believe, is fire rated. Anyway, I'll find it here in a minute. But as we look through it, we'll find these different things. Your exits. See how this curve comes out like this? That's your exit right there, okay? That's the way your door swings. So when you look at this, this is correct the way the door swings, okay? The doors on the interior can swing to the interior, but it all depends on how many people can be in that room. These are basically bedrooms is what they are, one bed bedrooms. They can swing to the interior. Now, when we look at these different things, damn it, sorry about that. Can only work with what I got. When we look at these things, we will find, where is it that I found this thing? The different type of schedules on here. The different type of schedules will tell us what the finish is. B finish, remember that was on the bottom of this. Your different schedules will go on there. Your D rating schedules, if you have to have a firewalls, that kind of stuff. Let me go over here and see how over here it'll tell us what's required, what kind of schedules, what we're looking for in these different type. These have a lot of different things on them. We saw earlier that if you look at your handrails here, so we talked about that earlier, all that is in this right here. Trying to see if we have a fire rating on any of these walls on here. More than likely, these are fire rated walls. We just have to find where the rating is. Here's one right here. See this right here is an F. This has to be a fire rated wall along this entire area here, mainly because this is a dining area, so it's an assembly area. So you're going to have, more than likely, going to need fire ratings along all these walls. Well, they show them here and here, but look at this. We don't show them over here as a fire rated wall, do we? So that's something we would look at in our plan review. Everybody follow me on that? So that's what we're looking for in these kind of things. We're looking for the floor finishes. We're looking for the door swings. We're looking for the different exits and that kind too. So when we're looking at this, when we come over here, there's an exit here, both of them swing out. But when we look at this, we have to look at the public way. Here we have 16 feet. The code says we only have to have 10 to our public way. Well, when we looked up here earlier, I noticed something a little different. that there was only 6 feet of public way that's noted. Darn it, gotta shrink it again. Come on, you can do it. Anyway, there's 6 feet of public way over here. I'm going to show you that. So that's something that we want to address right here on this exit. Look at this, and I'm going to make it a little bigger now. When you look at this, it only shows 6 feet of public way. Remember, they need to make it so there's 10 feet of public way. Does that make sense, what I'm saying here? On the side of the exit on the we'll say it's the west side, there's not 10, there's 16 feet, but in this exit there's not. So they would have to address that in their code review too. Everybody follow me on that too? So we're not going to spend a lot more here, but just know that that's the difference in these kind of schedules, what you're looking at, the details, and that kind of thing. You're down here's your footing. This is your slab footings, and you'll look and see how they're drawn there. You'll look at your, let's see, what is it? The wall types, and it tells you what your firewalls have to be. This here will tell you basically over here that it has to be fire rated, and there has to be an airspace between it. The type of fire rating is here. See this type X unless notified otherwise? Type X is fire rated sheetrock, that kind of thing. And it tells you how much it has to have. Type 5/8 inch gypsum, X gypsum, that tells you that it's for each half inch is a 30-minute firewall. 5/8 would be about a 30 to 45-minute firewall. So that's what it says on these things here. If you look at this, it tells you how that firewall is supposed to be installed, where it's supposed to be installed, and the like. Up here is where we find these firewalls. And in fact, I told you guys a while ago, these are firewalls right here. This is a firewall partition right here, firewall partition, okay? So as we look at it and we look at the schedules, we can see the difference. Everybody with me on page 2, how we found that? And you'll be able to find that when you start looking at your own there too. That'll make it a little bit easier to see. But I'm doing it this way. Is this better than last week so we can see exactly what we're looking at there? It's a little more cumbersome, but it shows better. As we look at this is page 4. We're missing page 2, right? This should probably be better, but it doesn't really matter. It'd be better to show this ahead of the schedules and the doors and all that, but it is what it is. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at a couple of different things here. Okay, this is going to be our elevations, right? Exterior elevations. Now on this one, we're not going to show a lot of stuff, but we're going to show you a couple of things. It tells you basically how high it is. It should tell you the height of the building. Nowhere on here does it show the height of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere on that front page did we see the height of this building. So that's one of the most important things we look at when we look at as a fire plans examiner. How tall is this silly building? Makes a difference as insofar as how it works. But it tells you where vents are. It tells you the downspouts, things that are normally there. It tells you how tall it is here at the eave, and it tells you the pitch of the roof, but it doesn't tell you how tall this roof is. You're going to see the separation here, and you'll see that it's limestone. So you have to, if it's within so many feet, that kind of thing of another building, these are different elevations. It's the same, but if it's within 10 feet of another building, it most likely is going to have some kind of fire rating. Limestone carries its own fire rating, but when you look at it and is it that close to another building, then you have to think, well, yeah, it has to have that. Basically, it tells you the fascias, the gutters, things that you're not going to be too concerned about looking at it right offhand. But it tells you what kind of it tells you what it's made out of, that kind of thing. This is the east elevation. You'll find what it's made out of. You'll find different types on this elevation. Once again, each one of these has a scale. Remember, the one earlier had 1/4 inch as 1 equaled 1 foot. On this one here, it shows us basically the scale is an 1/8 inch, it's just 1 foot. So it can go from one drawing to the next different. So kind of think about that when you're looking at it. It tells you your windows, and you saw your window schedules earlier. It basically tells you everything you need to know except the height of your building, right? So we look at the different buildings, what they're made of. Now you'll want to look at your notes down here, and it basically tells you the model numbers of weather stripping, everything else. And it's not going to have a lot to do with fire protection plans on these unless it's part of the unless it's closer to a another building, that sort of thing. So let's shrink this one back down, and then we'll go to the next drawing. Okay. And again, we're going to have the same thing. This is different views, and this one says it's page 5, but I don't see much difference in 4 and 5. You see what I'm saying? So there might be something missing there. So think about that when you're looking at 4 and 5. Now, this one here, again, does not, and I'll make it bigger, it doesn't tell us the height of this building. So we have a true problem with this drawing too, because it doesn't really tell us much about this building. It tells us we have asphalt shingles. It tells us different things, but again, it doesn't tell us the height of this building. Okay, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one because it's basically telling us the same thing as the other one. Now, when we look at it, and you look at your front, when you look at your front, you will see that this one here, the next one you're going to see is going to have a different number on it, and it's on the front of this at the analysis, and we're going to see 5, and then we're going to see 5.1. But when I look at this, yeah, this thing hates me. Okay, now let's do it. When we look at 5, we're also going to find 5.1. Okay, now when we look at this one's going to be a little more intricate. Okay, because what do we have on here? On page 5, I'll tell you, we have a lot of details and a lot of schedules, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Wall details, column details, a lot of details. Now we're going to look at a couple of these details, and we're going to say, what does it have to do with fire plans review? When your room details, your floor schedules, a lot of that has to do with our fire plans, mainly because it's the finishes that make a difference. When we look at these little bubble things like this, that refers us back to Schedule 1. Schedule 1 is going to be, let's find it. Over here, we'll look at Schedule 3. Anyway, you'll find Schedule 1 over here, and it'll tell you the type of wall that goes in there. It'll tell you the type of firewall that goes in here. Okay? It'll tell you how that wall is supposed to be built, how much airspace is supposed to be between them. It tells you the UL rating at UL. This is UL 108. It tells you what it's drawn to there. It tells you the UL 130, the plan, how it's supposed to be written, 108 again. It gives you the details here on this page. It tells you how big the walls are, even down to the toilets and the fixtures, how close they're supposed to be to the wall. A lot of that won't have a lot to do with us, except for the firewalls and how they manage or don't manage to make a difference in the design of this. When you look down here, it's going to give you the different the different things are going to be there. For instance, you might have a refrigerator. You might have different things in there that might be dead loads, and you'll want to look at those too. Yeah, it tells you about ovens, things that are going to be in there, and think about that. Is there going to be a wall that's required in there? Is it going to require air spaces between them? That kind of stuff. And that's just things we have to look at as plans reviewers. And it'll take you a while to learn these things, but once you learn them, they're pretty ingrained in your head what they are and the like. Most people have to look at these in order to even do inspections. That way, you know they're drawn to what's specified and what they're required to put in there. So when we look at 5, we're going to look at let's see. The next one we go to is 5.1. Now 5.1 is also going to be more detail, but it's going to give you more notes on it. When we look at 5.1, see all the notes up here? It's going to give you more detail as to the chimney, how it's made. There's fire barriers around this chimney on the outside and inside. The different flashings, what's going to go on this chimney, and it'll also tell you what's required, the different maintenance type thing, and the mantles and that kind of stuff, because these chimneys also have to have some kind of fire resistance and rating, so it might make a difference to us. Say the brick veneer, the bookshelves, all these have, and it tells us what's needed here. Again, on the bottom of these pages, you'll find the details. You'll find schedules and that sort of thing. Be sure to look at these details here, what's supposed to be there, and what's required insofar in the fire plans and that sort of thing. Now, those guys will look for different things in these type of sections, these wall sections. They'll look at things like this concrete foundation, where we won't have to look at them, and they'll look at different dimensions here as to where we don't have to look at those, but we have to know what they are and know what we're looking at when we look at them. Okay, so as we move on down, we're going to go to number 6. We got 5.1, and 5, we go to 6, right? That's what generally comes after 5. Well, when we look at 6, it's 5.1 still. When we look at 6, we're going to find even more schedules, and they're going to look a lot like what we saw on 5.1, but they're going to have different things. Now, this one here brings in your firewalls and brick and that sort of thing, but it tells you the different places these things go, and it tells you how they're made again. The big thing with these is don't let them duplicate the plans and call them something else, because this is clearly the same as 5.1. So when we look at it, think of that and think, have I seen this one before and where it is? So there's actually no 6 to go with it. So when we look at this 7 or 7.1, we'll look at 7.1 before we look at 7. When we look at 7.1, again, you have details of drawings, you have the different things that are dead loads, like your receptionist desks. You're going to have different drawings with furniture in it, partition, elevator partitions. You're going to have a lot of different drawings within these. Trying to think where there's fire protection stuff in this one. And it just tells you how these things are going to go in. Let's see. Elevation drawings, the different types of wood that go in here. And your job is to say, is it supposed to be, is it supposed to be fire rated? Is it not? This is your different room elevations and how things go in there. Okay, that's in 7.1. Now, if we go back down, I think we go to 7 after this one. Oops, my hand came off. Now this is 7. What this 7's going to do, I think this is 7. Let me make sure. I don't lie to you. This is driving me nuts. Yeah, this is 7. It should have came before the other one, but it didn't. So what we're looking at here is the different elevations insofar as what's required on these elevations. Okay, it's not like an exterior elevation type thing, but it tells you what type of doors and such go on here. It tells you basically the casings, the wood, the things that that we would look at here. Are they fire rated? Which they're not, but are they required to be? So we have to look at that and see. It tells you basically the different types of millwork. It tells you all kinds of stuff that might be there or that are supposed to be there, and do they need to be fire rated is what we have to ask when we're looking at this. It'll give us some fixtures. It'll give us things that we'll want to look for in here that's not here. Not here is basically emergency lighting, that sort of thing. You might find that a lot of times on your electrical schedules. A lot of times you'll find it on your architectural schedules too. But this tells you what it's made of, the firewall elevations, how it's bricked all the way around, the limestone blocks. Basically, it's fire rated from that, and it should be listed as fire rated, but it's not. So when we're looking at these, you can see the different things on the lights, what's holding them up. You can see the door jambs, what's required there. If there's no fire ratings required on the door jambs. We look over here, we're looking at the jambs again, and it tells us basically what's supposed to be there. Are they fire rated? Are they supposed to be? Are they not supposed to be? And basically what's there. You can look at the different safety classes, that kind of thing, and that'll be found on section 7 of these drawings here. Now we'll go down to section or A8. Oops. And here we see 8. Now 8 is something we're a little bit more used to looking at, isn't it? The plans like this. Now 8, when we look at it, it's going to show us a couple of different things. Let me pull it over here. Damn it. 8 is going to show us, we have to look at our legend over here to see what we're looking at on 8. Okay, I'm going to pull it down a little bit. And when you look down here, you have different schedules and different legends that you have to look at here. Everybody understanding that it's important to look at everything on these, your schedules on each page, your details on each page, that sort of thing, because it makes a difference in how you handle it and what you look at. Let's see here. So when we look at our legends, you got a ceiling grid. See it's on this one. I said it was on your architectural plans. This has your emergency lighting, your exit lighting, your ceiling height, and it also has things like fluorescent fixtures, your boarding, the ceiling, the all these things are in here. Now, when we look at these, we want to think about this when we start looking at our designs and our fire protection designs, because our fire protection designs, if they're firewalls inside here, our fire protection designs have to have fire rated backings and all that stuff. And that stuff we'll go over in the next week for sure. It tells us basically, this will tell us how high the ceilings are. It denotes basically put all gypsum board to the ceiling to framing members. Basically that kind of goes without saying, but that's why they say it, because it doesn't get done a lot of times. Other things we're looking at here, it tells us basically how our gypsum board is supposed to be put on the studs. I know it's kind of silly that they have to do that, but they do, because basically people won't follow the way they're supposed to do it, is what it is. It'll give you header details, how big the headers are supposed to be on these things. The things that go above the doors and above the windows, those are called headers, solid pieces up there. And let's see here. And also, let's see what else is on these details. Okay, we'll go up and look at these details now. The reflected ceiling plans. Okay, so when I do these, anybody remember what these things are right here? This design right here, what we're looking at?
Lights.
Yeah, these are simple lights, aren't they? Okay, these are simple lighting. So when you look at those and compare them to these, what are these? Are they exit directional lights, or are they emergency lighting?
It'll just say exit light.
Yeah, remember we looked at this thing earlier. It showed us the legend over here. Get to it. Anyway, it shows that as, oh, that shows the ceiling height. I'm sorry. Your emergency lighting, your exit lights are these right here with the little bar on the outside of it. Sorry, I told you wrong there. But that should be an exit light there. So when we look at it, that's not an exit light. That's not an exit is what it is. When we look down here, though, we should see things like exit signs if it's going to an exit, right? So when we look in here, this is our ceiling height, kind of varies. Sorry about that. We're looking at ceiling height. When we're looking at these, let's see, let me find an exit real quick. We have emergency lighting. See all this on emergency lighting? Emergency lighting requires that you have 1 foot candle throughout the building if the lights go off. That's 1 foot candle at ground level. So we're going to have emergency lighting. Looks like we're doing okay with emergency lighting. But what I don't see, like right here, is an exit sign lighting. See where there should be one right there to point this way toward the exit? There's not one there.
Coming down here. Yeah.
Do what?
Oh, sorry.
No,
I'm just repeating what you were saying.
Oh, okay, cool. So when we look up here, if I can ever get up there, we should see at least an exit sign at the exit. But there's something missing, right? There's one not telling us how to get there. So we'll get there eventually. So we have emergency lighting throughout here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This looks like it would be if I remember right. Is this an exit sign here? You
That's a
got,
fixture light.
okay, that's a fixture light. I can't remember what that legend said. Oh, okay, here's your exit sign right here.
Yeah.
But remember, down here, it doesn't tell us how to get to it, does it? So that's important to understand.
No, it
There
doesn't.
needs to be one here pointing this direction,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we gotta think about that when we're looking at these different things. Over here, you have fixtures. There's emergency lighting there. You're gonna have, when you look at this one though, this has an exit sign. An exit sign looks like pointing this way, probably, right? They missed it over here. See the difference? No exit sign here, here, but there's one here. Okay, everybody follow me on that?
Yes.
That's stuff we're looking for there. Emergency lighting. I see one light over here. They probably need another over here. So you'd have to be sure that it meets the code. As we move up on this one, I wonder why it takes longer to go this way than the other way. As we move up on this one, we'll see if there's an exit sign here. We'll get there. So we do have an exit sign there. We have emergency lighting, looks like throughout this one. But something that I did notice, this area in here, wasn't this a cafeteria? Oh, of course, was this a cafeteria?
Yeah.
Okay, this is probably the cafeteria here because I see firewalls here and here and here. So this is probably our cafeteria. What do you really not see in that cafeteria? I don't see any doors in this cafeteria, do you?
That's what I was wondering, where the doors at and how they swing.
Yeah, there's no doors in this cafeteria that I can see. If you guys look back on the one we looked at earlier, is there any doors there? And if it seats more than 50 people, they're required to have 2 doors on this, isn't it? So,
On this, on
They
this
show
whole
doors on
A8
A3.
on this whole A8, I haven't seen, I mean, I don't see any doors at all.
no, the thing is though, is that there's no exit signs, so I can only presume
Well,
that there's no doors. When we look back at 7, I think it was 7.2 or 7.1, or no, 7.1, 7.3, that showed the doors there. The whole point in this though is there's no exit signs in this door, in this cafeteria area. They have emergency lighting, but I don't see any exit signs anywhere. Is this a door up here? It appears it might be a door, but there's no exit sign on it. And
there's 2 exit lights at the top.
is there? Did I miss them? Okay. Okay, thank you. So we have 2 exits here. So you have to figure if is that enough exits? More than likely it is. So thank you, Trista.
Should this type of plan, the ceiling, should it show the doors or not? I was kind of confused by that.
It would be better if it did, but it's not required.
Okay.
It's required to be on the other plan that you looked at.
On A3, the floor plan, it shows your doors.
Okay, and there's
Left
a
and
door
right.
here also, right?
Yes, there's a door there as well. What is that symbol there with the pie piece for the exit sign shaded in? What does that shading indicate?
This right here,
Yes, sir.
this is the ceiling height. That's what it does, I think. let me try to go across and see if it'll let me. Because it's in the legend there. It is ceiling height. The only thing I see there, can you guys see what it is?
No, it does. I can't see it, but above it, there's a circle with the two diamonds.
Yeah,
And it
that's
says varies, and then A period, F period, F. So that would be the ceiling height.
yeah. I want to say it is ceiling height, but it's maybe it's non-variable. Variable. I don't know. It's something that's not on the schedule, is what it is.
It's not on the grid. It's not on the legend. It's showing what that symbol represents.
So, but when we look at it, there's no exit sign here either. Okay, so when we look at these, kind of look at that kind of stuff too. There's a lot of stuff in here. You can see when we look in here, you can see your fluorescent lighting throughout here. We noticed there's a few exit signs missing. Let's see what else. So, any questions about this one here? About A, whatever this is. I lost which one we're on. A8. See, that's a lot of things. That's stuff that we're going to be looking for. So when we look at that, we're gonna see a lot of things on this one, right? Now, when we think about this, we have to also look.
I'm in fire class right now.
Let's see. Let's mute this.
Okay, it'll be later on this evening. Okay, all right. Bye.
Okay, sorry. So when we look at it, there's a lot of different things that we're looking at in here. Okay, think about the corridors. How long are they? Are they more than 30 feet long? If so, they're going to have to put a hallway somewhere in here to make them shorter. So even with a we have to think even with a sprinklered building. So we'll have to look at our fire protection plans to see that too. Now this one here is A9. A9 basically is going to show us a couple of little things, but nothing major for us, but we're going to look at them anyway. And then we have two for the supports or structural, which is kind of weird because they didn't put very many in it. But A9 is going to be the things that tells us the different parts of our building and such. And it's going to also reflect our duct work and our hoistways and things like that, should we have them. Talks about our foundation, talks about the footing, and it's mainly our slab and that kind of thing. But when we look at it, the only thing we're going to look at is things like this one here, I think is concrete floor slab, how they put their fillers in. If we were to look at this and there was a firewall, there's not a firewall per se on these plans, but if we looked at them, your firewall would be attached at your base right here in the foundation itself. Everybody follow me there? That's the only reason I want to show you there. It would be attached to this base. We only have fire barriers in this building, so it's not going to show us a true firewall. Okay. And this is mainly slab and everything that we're looking at there. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because it doesn't have a lot to do as far as as what we have to do with it. Okay? So now we're going to look at that. That's our S1. Did I miss 9? Yeah, I missed this one. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay. This just shows us our roof details on 9A. We're not going to go through that much either because it's not going to have anything to do with fire suppression or life safety, that kind of thing. Now, when we look at this last one, this one's going to give us the trusses and the truss profiles. This is all we're getting on this one as far as our structural goes. It doesn't show a lot of columns, anything like that. So, and it's mainly because it's only a 1 floor. But when we look at this shows us our truss construction and how it's supposed to be put up. It tells you basically where it goes. And when you get over here, it tells you how your trusses are made. It tells you basically how big your expansions are on your trusses. It tells you that you have an hour rated ceiling here, so fire can't get up to it. Everybody follow me on that detail right there? And that makes a difference there. And it tells you basically your profiles, and quite simply, this ceiling here, it might be quite simply, it says, let's see how big it is, the ceiling. Basically, it could be the fiberboard that you see, like the little, what do they call it, the little panels. It could be that. But when you're looking at this and you're looking at the detail on it, which they don't have a detail on it that they should on that ceiling, but it should show, they might, but it should show that not only do the tiles have the rating, but so does the expansion between them. The metal pieces have to be rated along with that too. And we'll see it if it's in here. So we'll look at it and see. Let's see. As we're looking through here, it tells us basically door overhangs, the chimney, the flue, the ridge line. I'm trying to see if it says exactly in here about that, but the detail should have the fire rating and how it's put in, and the framing too. Modular beams. Let's see. And truthfully, I don't see it in here, and it should be in here. It should state what kind of ceiling is in there, and how it's fire rated, and that sort of thing. Now, mind you, it's gonna be there along with the fire suppression, but they're requiring and drew in a 1-hour fire rating here. Okay, and truthfully, I don't see it over here. You guys that have the big ones, do you guys see it written in over here? Nope, I don't see it written in there too. So when we look at it, that's something that's missing on these plans, isn't it? So we covered all the architectural and structural plans and a little bit of what they entail, which is a lot, really, isn't it? Is there any plans that you guys have with these? So I'm going to unshare you real quick so I can talk to you. Everybody see my pretty face now? So with that, there's a lot to do next week. A lot of people have to get stuff in today or by the end of the day today before they get a 0 on it. And I see a lot of people have turned them in, so that's okay. Some people are having trouble getting them uploaded for some reason into there. Email it to me directly and just put completed and just say see email on your learning management system. That way I can see it in both spots and I can give you a grade there, okay? I put in, there's only a couple of people that have not told me what days they want to test on as far as here at Harris County. I only have 2 that haven't given it to me here at Harris County. So if you don't have it in by the end of the day, I'm going to pick either the 19th or the 20th for you. So figure that out. And for you guys out of state, I got with you this morning, and we'll go ahead and I'll get that over to you for the final exam too. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions thus far about the class and how things are going?
What was due today?
I give up. I'm not looking at it.
Hmm.
Here, hold on. I'll tell you. Oops, I got to log back in now.